the Rittner Co-Care as a program. So I don't know, Dave, have you heard back from?
I have not heard back from her yet. I have next week scheduled. It's George Lewis. He does, I was telling Bill about this last week. He does paintings for donation.
The Waterman.
The Waterman, yep. The following week, let me look at the calendar a minute. I don't have anything on the 10th yet. The 17th, I've got a guy I know out of New York, Matt Ingersom, with the Grassroots Peace Fellowship, our peace organization through Rotary. So we've still got the 10th and the 24th open. So if I hear back from Sister, and I will probably tag her again, because that was, I think, Monday. You and I talked. I want to give a little time, and then I'll email her probably tomorrow.
Okay.
And I don't like to pepper people with emails too much, but I would like to get stuff set up.
It certainly sounded interested when I was on with her on Facebook Messenger. So,
Mitch, what happened to the change of the?
I didn't actually talk to her. I just was messaging her. So I thought we'd save that for the program. Hopefully, I'm just wondering if he stepped out because of his, health risks, maybe, just didn't want to be, I don't know. We'll see. So this is, for those of you that are kind of in the sidelines there, Sister Brenda, who was with the Presentation Arts Center that we helped with the grant and everything. She is now the interim executive director of the Rittner Co-Care. So we know her from the past, and I'm interested to, like Bob said, find out what happened and what's going on. So she sounded excited to be able to have the opportunity to meet with us and talk to us. So we'll get her lined up, get a connection again to the food pantry. So anybody else have anything new they want to share? All right. Dave, you've got a program lined up for us.
I do, and this may
Hey,
be.
wait, before we do that, could I do something, please?
Sure, please.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
I have a Paul Harris +7 pin, and this, Ruth, would you come on? This is actually going to be mailed to you.
Oh.
So you've exceeded the I guess the $8,000 mark. It's help Paul Harris +7.
Yeah.
So I got this in the mail, and I didn't realize that they send them automatically to us. So anyway, I will since no telling when we're going together, I'll put this in the mail to you. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yay, Ruth.
Thanks, Ruth.
For what it's worth, and this just came in yesterday, but this is a +8 that will be sent to Jack.
All right.
So I've got that here for Jack. So I'm going to send that out to him today's mail.
Did you get that directly from the foundation?
Yep.
Okay.
They sending duplicates?
Well, no, they didn't. I mean, I got it in the mail, and I didn't realize it. And I threw the little invoice away, and I didn't realize it's supposed to go to Ruth. But okay. Well, that's 2 of them. Thanks to both of you.
Very good. Back to you, Dave.
All right. Unless anybody has anything else to fill in time. I was scrambling to try to find something. And I'm going to be very fair and honest. In the spirit of the 4-way test, it's getting harder and harder to come up with ideas. So anybody that wants to step up, please do so. So you're getting a video, which it's about 30 minutes. I don't want to get into politics because everybody's ideas are different, but this is a speech that Andrew Young made when he was at the Rotary Convention in 2017 in Atlanta. One thing that struck me with what he said and how he explained how things worked, politicians are in it to get reelected. Business is in it to make a profit. Service organizations like Rotary pull the two together. They actually get the job done. Politicians aren't going to hang themselves out and take on a risk like polio until it's been proven that, oh, yeah, we can get behind this now. Business isn't going to put all their pony up their money because, well, we're going to lose money. This is where service, that's the one thing that came out of this. To see him do this and the energy he gave, I've watched it in between to make sure it was the one I remembered. I hunted all over the internet for it. Mary reminded me about it. I hunted all over, and it was on my hard drive on the computer all that time. So I could have just done a search and found it a lot quicker. But anyway, I'm going to put it up. If anybody wants me to stop it at any point and we can talk about stuff, or we can just say we're done with it, that's fine too. Whatever works out for you guys. Let me see. Hold on a minute. Make sure
I'm gonna jump off. I've got to get ready and get to work. I've seen it. I can highly recommend this video. So have a good day, everybody. Be safe out there.
y'all take care.
Thanks
Bye,
so
Tom.
much.
Take care,
Be
Tom.
careful.
Thank you.
Well, how's everybody?
Can you all hear this?
You're supposed to be feeling
Yes.
good in Atlanta. We've got wonderful sunshine. We're going to try to keep it cool. And yet the warmth of this room and the presence of some 40,000 Rotarians walking around our streets makes this a very, very special day. When Bob Hope asked me if I would address this group, I knew exactly what I needed to say. I don't know how I'm going to say it. I never know. But I know the work of Rotary through the years. I was with Rotary and Ted Turner in the north of Nigeria as we were trying to put the last few touches on the eradication of polio. And though I have not been privileged to be a Rotarian, it's largely been because I've been running 2 or 3 jobs all my life. But every now and then, at least once or twice a month, a quarter, somebody brings me to Rotary, and I have a wonderful experience. Rotary is sort of the glue that holds this city together. And the downtown Rotary is one of the places where you go when you want to feel the pulse of what's really happening in the city. But I was supposed to talk about giving back and paying it forward. And that would take me a long, long time, because I don't know anybody anywhere that's been as blessed as I have been blessed. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I was born right in the middle of the block. And on one corner was an Irish grocery store. The next corner was an Italian bar. And the third corner was the headquarters of the Nazi Party. And my father had to explain to me at 4 years old why these people were hiling Hitler. And there was no way I could escape the realities of the world in which we live. But going back to those days and realizing how blessed I was just to have parents who cared, parents who had been educated, for the most part by Christian missionaries, parents who had somehow come up in families where even if they didn't have formal education, there was a love of learning, and there was a respect for one's neighbor, and there was an understanding that we had to live together as brothers and sisters, as Martin Luther King used to say, or we will perish together as fools. I was also born with a grandmother. I was born with a grandmother who had lost her sight. And she fussed with God every day about, why are you keeping me here? Well, I realize now that God was keeping her there with me because every day when I came home from school, I had to read the Bible and the newspaper. And reading the Bible and the newspaper and hearing her really complain to God about letting her live too long and about her being a burden, I developed a comfort with the idea of death. Death was not something to fear. Death was a part of life, and we as human beings are not just physical beings, we're spiritual beings. And as spiritual beings, we have no need to worry, to fear. Martin Luther King used to say that to be free in America and anywhere else in the world, you had to overcome the love of wealth and the fear of death. And if you had no love of money, you can have money, but don't love the money. You are free to use that money for the well-being of all of God's children and yourself. But if you have no fear of death, there's no one that can take away the dreams and ideals and the values that the Creator of heaven and earth has placed in our hearts. And with that faith, we can almost overcome anything. Now that's what I give thanks for. I give thanks and I can never rest. I can never rest until almost all of God's children, as many as I can touch, could have the same kind of nutrition, the same kind of love, the same kind of housing, the same kind of health care, the same kinds of blessings that have been conferred on me to share with all of the Creator's children all over this planet. And I don't think the day passed when my grandmother didn't say, "Remember, you blessed boy, and to those to whom much has been given, of them is much required." It's not suggested. It's not even expected. It is required. And so because we have been blessed, we are in the blessing business. Now, I'm not preaching yet, and I'm not going to preach, but the world in which we live doesn't sense its blessings. The world in which we live has sort of gotten hard-hearted, and it looks more at what's wrong than it celebrates what's right. That I used to say of some of my Christian friends, they have a kind of sore-toe Christianity. That when you got a hangnail on your big toe and it's hurting your feet, you forget everything. All you can think about is every step you take, that toe is just driving a pain up your leg. But you forget your brain's working, your heart's working, your lungs are working, your blood's flowing, everything else is all right. But that damn toe. And that's the way I look at our news. That's the way I look at the world in which we live. The news focuses on the sore toes. The news focuses on what's wrong. Everybody is aghast with all of the horrors of humanity. But for every horror we face in humanity, there are millions of blessings that are taking place each and everywhere we live. And so I want to kind of define a little picture here. Politicians, and I am one, I have been one, not a good one, but politicians have to have a majority vote in order to make change. They have to have 50% plus one. In the U.S., sometimes 64%. But politics is very cautious. Business is not. We were able to change the South not through politics, but through business. And the reason was that in Birmingham, Alabama, we suddenly realized that we were responsible for segregation. That segregation was something that could only exist if we tolerated it. And that it expected us to subsidize our own separation. And when we decided not to do that, it really only took about 90 days. 90 days where people only bought food and medicine, and suddenly people in the department stores and the businesses said, wait a minute, we can't be in business without your business. And so we were able to sit down and not blame anybody. But Dr. King had an amazing way of saying, look, if we had not been bending over, allowing you to ride our backs, you wouldn't have been able to do so. So all we're doing is standing up. And we're standing up so that we can look at you eye to eye and face to face, and we can work out the troubles of the world as brothers and sisters. But really, it was a no fault. We were not blaming anybody else for doing something to us. We were taking responsibility for our own changes. And so I'm a firm believer that we must all take responsibility for whatever it is that we are concerned about. Now, when we do that, we can have changes. But right now, it's taking us a long time even to understand what we want changed. Change is happening so fast. I have a little globe that sits on my breakfast table, and every morning, I can't understand why it keeps on going around. It's not on a pedestal, it just keeps rotating. And I watch where it is in the morning, and when I finish my breakfast, I watch how far it's gone. And it reminds me that nothing stays still. The earth is in motion. Change is absolutely not just a necessity, it's an inevitability. And if we are going to keep pace with change, we have got to continue to grow. We've got to continue to think. We've got to continue to act in the interest of those things that are going to better our brothers and sisters. And so I see business and politics. Business can change quicker when the profit margin changes. Politics is slower. But what's in between them is civil society. Civil society, that is Rotary. Civil society in all its forms is the spiritual glue that not only holds a society together, but it happens to be the grease that makes a society change and grow. Because you don't have a dog in the fight. You want things to go smoothly. And that Rotary pledge and the whole idea of, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? And you know what it is, I don't know, but it's the one thing that impresses me whenever I go into a Rotary meeting. Because if you live that way, you can't help but make the world a better place. Now, Atlanta has functioned with civil society. You know, we don't call it civil society, but it is. It was really 9 families. 9 families that came to me, and I became the 10th, that said, we need to bring the Olympics to Atlanta. And everybody thought we were crazy. First place, it was supposed to go to Athens. And we didn't have any money. We didn't have any knowledge of really how to put on Olympics, but we had a dream. And in a matter of 2 years, a dozen families serving as volunteers. I said they were a group of aging jocks in a midlife crisis and exiles from the junior league. And they were looking for something to do, and the messages that they got led us to helping to make this a truly international city. You cannot survive in this world if you're not global, at least in your perspective. We've heard it all the time. You have to think globally and act locally. And when you do that, you can kind of make sense of the world. But we've known for a long, long time, though our politicians don't seem to have understood it, that there are no borders anymore. I mean, I know I have to have a passport when I go one way or the other too far, but really, somebody just stamps it. I mean, so what? We are of one blood, practically all of the nations of the world. And when the economy began to slow down a little bit in Europe, we invited European businesses to come here. And we now have over 2,500 German companies that are doing business in Atlanta. And they bring jobs, they bring ideas, they create markets. They've helped us grow from less than 1 million people to over 6 million. They didn't solve the traffic, but that was our problem. And we're going to get it yet. We don't know how yet. But we have almost 1,000 Japanese companies. We had large amounts of Dutch money coming in, investing in these hotels and buildings. And, you know, almost none of the buildings, including the Olympics, that we have in Atlanta was built with government money. We kind of figured it out, and now I'm preaching a little bit. We kind of figured it out that the government really has $20 trillion and they $18 trillion in debt. Well, that's kind of hard, but over here in New York on Wall Street, they got about $70 trillion, and half the time they don't know what to do with most of it. So we have learned how to put together projects here in Atlanta, and the best one and the most successful one is the Atlanta airport. When I came here, it was a Quonset hut with a runway, one runway. Oh, even in that one runway, Mayor Hartsfield had made it the only runway in the South where jets could land, even though the airlines didn't have jets. But it's that thinking ahead that made it possible for us to go to Wall Street, borrow money, expand it time and time and time again, so that now we have over 100 million passengers a year coming through that airport. It probably didn't cost us more than $25 billion, just $25 billion. But we've never been late on a payment. We have a AAA bond rating, and it makes about $40 billion a year with over 1 million jobs generated. Well, that's a pretty good deal. And nobody's hurting. Now, I'm saying that is the vision. The people who put together those kinds of ideas, the airport and the Olympics, were for the most part not primarily elected officials. The elected officials supervised it after we put it together. And so I'm saying that the role of civil society, the role of the Rotarians of the world, is to find a way to come in that space between majority rule politics and profit-oriented business and put forward those values that you know to be real and true and universal anywhere and whatever religion and color and state you come from. You've got to be true to yourself. You've got to be fair to your neighbor. You've got to be honest. You've got to be, yeah, even in some way humble. You can't have all of the answers. Now, I turned 85 a couple of months ago, and instead of a funeral, I had a party last week with 5,000 of my closest friends. But what we were trying to do was do those things that we could see as promising in the future, but that right now they were not market ready. Something called duckweed. It's everywhere you live, anywhere in the world. I first found it in Uganda. And I realized it's down in Louisiana where I come from. It's this little green leaf that grows along still waters all over the world, every continent in the middle, not the Antarctic. But it happens to grow faster than any green leaf on earth. But it also happens, and I looked up on this when I found an old moonshine friend of mine cooking it to make, he called it ethanol. Ethanol is just high-grade moonshine. But I said, what is that you got left? It was a nice little light green powder, and he said, usually I just throw that on my vegetables, my garden. I said, can I have it? I took it and sent it away to a laboratory, and it was analyzed as a 47.5% protein. So this fastest growing duckweed on earth in water, fastest growing waterborne plant, also has enough protein. Soybeans with all of its modifications is only about 43-44% protein. We should be able to refine duckweed protein to a 50 to 60% protein. In a world that's going to grow from 6.5 billion to 9.5 billion, maybe even in our lifetime or shortly afterwards, we're going to have to find quicker ways to grow food to feed people. In a place like India, where people don't eat cows and fish but insist on vegetarianism, there's got to be a vegetable protein that sustains life on the Indian continent, or we're going to have really terrible kinds of malnutrition. And so that's one of the things we're working with. We even got the World Bank and the African Development Bank and other people involved. And we're just about 10 people with little or no money. But I can't find that as an excuse, because when Martin Luther King went to Birmingham, we were 15 people with no money. And if you've got an idea and you're willing to commit to it and risk your life for it, then you can make it happen. The other thing we're looking at is when people ask me about, what about the climate treaty in Paris? I said, I don't know anything about treaties. I went to the UN. People argue about treaties all the time, but it's probably good to do. But what I'm worried about is the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River, where I grew up in New Orleans, floods just about every year. In the last 10 years, it's done $101 billion worth of flood damage between Iowa and Mississippi and Illinois and Louisiana. Already the Missouri River and the Red River in Arkansas are flooding. I don't know whose treaty it is. I just know the water's overflowing the banks, and people with technology, with money, with will ought to be able to get together and stopped the river from flooding. I almost feel like Noah. We either got to build some walls along this river, or we've got to find a way to irrigate it, to spread the water over to ponds. We did that in the East Coast. Franklin Roosevelt, we don't flood much. We have all of these man-made lakes that were done by TVA way back in the Roosevelt administration. We haven't been concerned about our environment very much since Franklin Roosevelt. It's time we took a look at that. And there are many, many things. There are many, many things that you know about and I know about. And you know more than I do about some things, and I may know more than you do about other things. But in a Rotary meeting, you'd be surprised at the kinds of ideas that people share. And all I would do is plead with you on this occasion of your 100th anniversary to be the glue between the politics and the technology, the grease between the politics and the technology, whatever it takes, that you are the software to make the world work. Because you're not trying to get anything, you're not trying to make money on it. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're not also trying to take advantage of somebody else. You're trying to make the world a better place. And the Ted Turners of the world and the Bill Gates of the world and the people with billionaires of the world are doing a commendable job. But what Rotary talks about, and also what about every religion in the world talks about, is trying to cast down your bucket where you are and solve the problems that are coming in your path. That doesn't take much. And what I found is that the crazier things I launch into, the more fun they are when they happen. I mean, I cried when we won the Olympics. I didn't cry when they signed the Civil Rights Bill because I was still bruised and beaten, but I sure was glad that it was signed. I look around this city, and forgive me, but riding around this city, I'm on a constant ego trip. First place, you got to ride on my street when you come down to get here. And I don't know how God or anybody else expects me to be humble if you got a street that you got to ride on for me to come down here. But all of these buildings, I can remember when we broke ground on the Marriott Marquis, when the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead was financed by a Dutch institutional holding company, where we created enterprise zones that make it easy for people to invest their money. And we found that if you can keep your money safe, honest, and efficient, you turn a profit. And so it's really not hard to get a city moving these days. And I say to people all the time in my city, you can make more money honestly in a growing economy than you can steal in a dying economy. So it's not just, it's not just morality, it's just plain common sense. And I've been to 152 countries in the world. And I've met with people who they thought were crazy and bad and fanatic, people whom they thought were saints. I somehow got along with all of them. Because that's what America's all about. That's what the world is all about, the world of Rotary. And I thank you, and I ask the blessings of God, the Creator. I ask you to love one another. I ask you to forgive one another. I ask you to see beyond the difficulties and the stumbling blocks of today and look to the bright horizons of tomorrow, where you can make this the kind of world that you would have your children and grandchildren be a part of. God bless you.
I just one editorial comment. I thought that was as appropriate now as it was back in 17. And maybe even more so, especially with the noise, with the news, and we have even more with Facebook and all the other stuff. So it's, to me, it you know, it still resonates. So I'm going to leave it there. Mitch, I'll turn it back to you.
Great
All
video.
right. Thank you. I thought that was I remember watching that before, but didn't remember the content. So it was great to hear it again. And I enjoyed it. It was very timely, Dave. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments?
And if you
All
don't,
right.
Carolyn, I know you joined us late.
Hi, I had
Hi.
company that from Cook Station, and she left this morning because of the snow. They already had a bunch out there, so I was
see.
just getting ready to sign on, and she came out of the bedroom and was gonna head out after a cup of coffee, so that's why I was late, but I'm here. It was good.
Hey, why don't you give me a call at the pharmacy after 9 o'clock?
Okay,
Okay.
will do. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Carolyn. Good to see you. Oh, well, not see you, but good to hear you.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to see me right now. My hair's probably standing up straight.
Oh, very good. All right. We will tune in next week. I guess Dave, I got a board meeting on Tuesday already.
yeah, I will send these. I'll add that to my list for today to send up and set it up and send it out.
Oh, I gotta get a speaker soon too. I think I'm on February 3rd.
I got one. I think I've got one for you. If you're the 7th, I've got one for next week, which I think is you.
February
Uh,
3rd.
Yep. So that's covered. You're already covered on that one, and I've got one on the 17th.
Okay.
Working on the other one. So anybody that I was telling Bill before you got on, it was either that video or you guys could sit here and watch me do flight sim on the computer. I mean, we're coming down to bare minimums at this point. So
Carolyn, go ahead and keep working on if you got an idea. move
Yeah, I was
forward.
thinking of Valley Industries having Jerry Hart or Jim Geyer do one.
Sure.
that'd be good. 10th or the 24th right now are open still. Or
10th
anytime
and
in March.
24th.
Yep.
Huh?
10th and 24th. And then all
February or
of
March?
March. February.
Okay.
And then all of March. So
Okay.
if they can't do it this time, maybe they can get another one.
Okay.
Dave, did you see, well, I know you're friends with John Nanny, and I just started following him one day on Facebook. Did you see that he's willing to speak to groups about polio and his personal quest with polio? And
Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
okay.
Al must have slept through this meeting, huh?
You didn't wake him up?
I should have called him when I saw his name wasn't on there. He used to call me at 5:30 in the morning. Make sure I was up and getting ready.
Remind me not to give him my phone number.
Amen.
Everybody doing okay?
All right.
Good.
Yep.
All righty.
Good day not to be out and about. So,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
starting to snow here. So
all right, everybody. Good to talk to you. We will see you.